Hey, hope you're well. I'm doing one of those things that needs like double jointed arms or something. Or arms that are 3 feet long. So about a year ago, I took out my Triton router when I rebuilt my router bench, and I fitted a new torsion box bench and the Sautershop milling motor and lift. And in this video, I'm changing that. Now, I want to be absolutely clear that there's no issue, no kind of problem at all with the Sauter router and lift. The change is for something else altogether. In fact, the router, milling motor and lift have been absolutely flawless, and I would have no problem whatsoever continuing to use them. It kind of begs the question, why am I changing it? It's actually pretty straightforward. Just as the guys at Sautershop a year ago gave me the opportunity to have a try with their milling motor and their router lift, just so Peter Sefton and the guys at Woodworkers Workshop and give me the opportunity to give the AUK milling motor and the Jessem router lift a try. Just as we're clear, these items were supplied for review by Woodworkers Workshop. I haven't been paid to make this video or to say nice things about the products. As a Woodworkers Workshop affiliate, I will earn from qualifying sales, so be sure to use the offer code 10-Minute Workshop at checkout for a 5% discount on these items at Woodworkers Workshop, and there are links in the video description down below to everything that I'll be using today. Of course, I'm not going to be attempting any kind of a serious review in this video because I've barely got the things out of the box. I will do a broad spec check between the two and give you some first impressions of the Jessem lift and the AUK milling motor. Before we get to any of that though, I've got some remedial work to do on my torsion box router bench because of standards. Well, there aren't any really, and basically the two plates fit into two very different sized holes, so I need to do a little bit of infilling in here first, then I can get a new rebate cut and we can get the Jessem lift plate settled into the bench nice and snug, and then we'll start thinking about fitting the motor and doing all those other things. I need to add some little infills to the benchtop, so I'm using the painter's tape method to template the shape and then shape the corners of a batten that's already cut to length. A quick test fit, then I can rip this in half on the bandsaw and cut it to depth. And yes, I did flip the workpiece and mark it again, thanks for noticing. A squeeze of glue and some clamps set as spreaders fixes these in place. And with the glue set I can give the area a quick rub over, then collect the dust from the bandsaw, mix it with a little glue and use this to fill in any surface gaps. "10 minutes or so later I can give it another quick sanding over. Okay, so while all that was going on, I've got everything unboxed. No surprises in any of that. We'll take a quick look at that in a sec. Over here, we've got the optional template for the cutout, all clamped down, ready to go. So yeah, pretty much sorted. In terms of the hardware, the lift is nothing unusual, no surprises in that. It's a perfectly standard plate with the uppy downy bits at the back, all nicely enclosed, so no bits in there to trap dust in the mechanism or anything like that. A couple of slightly strange things. Very, very long, very large hand crank. Not sure why it needs to be that big compared to the one that came with the Sautershop, which is, you know, much neater, but it is what it is. That comes with it. It has polycarbonate insert plates, whereas the ones on the Sauter were magnetic. The milling motor is vast. It is a huge thing. This one's 2400 watts. They do a 1600 watt version as well, with a simple on-off on the body, and it has a pre-wired NVR switch with speed control on it. That's really, really interesting. Never seen one that comes with that before. That does give me a couple of problems actually, because I'm not going to be able to fit that through the cable access in my router bench. So whether I want to cut a hole big enough to take that. And to be honest, even if I did, I'm not sure that this is going to mount onto the fence very well. So that's going to give me sort of pause for thought. Otherwise, you know, it's a honking great piece of kit and fits right into the lift mechanism, into the plate. So shouldn't have any issues with that. I'll fit that later. We want to get this settled into the bench first, which is what we'll do next. But obviously much easier to do that before we fit the motor. The only other thing to say about the AUK motor, I think, is it has ER20 collets. ER20 collets are the more modern sort of collets, if you like, and they're a bit more flexible. So the 1/4 inch collet will also do 6mm, and the 1/2 inch collet will also do 12mm. I do have an 8mm collet as well, because they're not that flexible. But yeah, all seems, you know, perfectly standard, perfectly normal. You do get a slightly thicker 3mm or thereabouts insert plate that the router plate lift levels against, so I will need to cut a slightly deeper rebate than the one I have already. But again, once the router's there and ready to go, that's no hardship. So I'll get on with that now, get that rebate cut out, get this settled in, and then we can get everything bolted together. With 12mm of material to remove with the bearing guided bit, I'm taking this in 2 passes, checking for fit before removing the template, and then marking the corner holes for drilling. So this is all a bit of a pain. I've realised belatedly that the holes in the plate for this Jessem lift are much further inboard, whereas the previous ones were further out towards the edges. And they're very close now to the edge of the cutout, which is a bit of a nuisance. So what I'm going to have to do is cut some little blocks and glue those in there to give a little bit of extra support. So yeah, it's a bit of a drag, but got to be done. And once done and the glue dry, I can drill them out. Tidy up and offer up the lift, which is now fouling in one corner, of course, but a little careful marking and a couple of minutes with a handsaw will clear that up. Alright, so a little bit more of a fight than we expected, but this is definitely sort of in and drilled and fully supported, so no issues with that. We can get the router, the milling motor, into the lift itself. The instruction manual isn't fantastic, it's got to be said, and it's okay. Written by people who know what they're doing, which is always tricky for the rest of us. But we need to get this up on a couple of little blocks of wood to make sure that the router goes all the way through. And then, again, one of those weird things, this crank handle thing is supposed to go in the end here, but it just doesn't quite go, so I'm just going to use a regular hex for that. And you sort of open this up, and then the motor drops right in. I'm going to do it so the switch is at the front, which is facing away from it. And then they reckon you're supposed to back that off a 1/16 of an inch. That's about 1.5 mil. With the motor in the lift, I can give the bench top a final sanding with P180, followed by a coat of wax. I'm using Keith Brown's new clear oil wax finish. Thanks, Keith. And I'm applying this with a stockinette cloth, then buffing up to a final finish a few hours later. With the top finished, I can drop in the motor and lift assembly, bolting it down in the corners. I think this is where we came in. And then levelling it up as necessary with the grub screws around the edges of the plate. Going back and forth between them to get a nice flush fit, and you can either test this out by finger feel or by running a small block of wood over the surface. So I did both. With a polycarbonate insert plate fitted, I can do a quick up and down to check that the collet clears everything comfortably, and then get on with the NVR. An NVR or no volt release switch is a safety feature that prevents a tool from accidentally restarting after, say, a power cut, and I've opted to mount this one on the front leg of the bench. I'll need to do a little bit of cable management later. And as there are no obvious external mounting points for the NVR box, I've taken off the cover, making sure it's unplugged of course, and fixed it in place with a few small screws, just marked with an awl, as I didn't want to drill in there with all the cables around. With the cover screwed back on and everything connected, I can fire it up for a quick test. And then get the fence in and everything back to normal. So there we go, Jessem lift and the AUK milling motor installed in the torsion box bench. Not quite as straightforward as we would have liked, of course, but then things never are. I don't expect to have any issues at all with this, just like I had no issues whatsoever with the Sautershop router earlier on. And to be perfectly honest, I never had any problems with the big old Triton router either. You pays your money and you makes your choice. I'll be giving this a proper workout when I rebuild the cabinet down there. Lots of drawers to make for that. So that all should be out in a couple of weeks' time. So keep your eyes peeled for that. But I'm going to call this one done for now. Thanks for taking a look, and I'll catch you in the next one. All right, take care. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to support the channel even further, you can do that by becoming a member at 10 Minute Workshop Plus. Plus is my new independent member platform over at 10minuteworkshop.com. There's lots of details there, or you could head up 10minuteworkshop.plus to sign up directly. It's a free sign up, but with additional benefits for members who are on a paid plan. Plus members have access to ad-free and sometimes extended versions of the public-facing YouTube videos, as well as all kinds of exclusive content from behind-the-scenes snippets and outtakes to weekly vlogs and additional midweek content, discounts on 10 Minute Workshop products, free plans, plus a lively new members forum where you can get your questions answered, or maybe provide some answers for other folks too. So if any or all of that sounds like your kind of thing, we'd love to have you on board and taking part. There are links down below as always. Thanks so much for stopping by, and I'll see you in the next one.